Hello, and welcome back to the Global Falcons podcast. I'm your host, Andrew L.G. Hunter.
And I'm your host, Angela Hunter.
And we're bringing you the stories of the week. The stories of the week this week, we'll list off all four, and then we'll dive right into each one. This week, we'll be talking about 3 firms lead zero-emission shipping.
And how Beijing is reducing air pollution. And transforming finance for women in Tanzania.
And Japan's plan for conveyor belt transport. These all sound very good and futuristic, and these are the ones that I like.
Yeah.
I mean, well, the last one especially. But let's dive right in. But before we do that, please, if you like what you hear and you get any value at all, please hit the like button, subscribe. These things help us grow the channel, and it helps us bring better content to you.
And if you leave a comment with some either criticisms or compliments even, those are nice too.
Yeah. Compliments are always great.
Leave as many of those as you want. But also criticism, it helps us grow, it helps us adapt and make sure that we're bringing a lot of value.
100%. Well said, Angela. Okay, so 3 firms lead zero-emission shipping. I know we talk about shipping a lot. It seems to be a hot topic lately, so we're just going to keep rolling with that. 99% of cargo ships are powered by oil-based fuels. Now, this isn't very good, but it's making up 3% of our global CO2 emissions. So when we can bring these emissions down by changing our fuel-based shipping cargoes, then I think that's better for the whole world. So right now, big initiative towards that is hydrogen or methanol or
Ammonia.
And that's the one we're talking about today a bit. So we need to decarbonize the world, as you know, with net zero initiative by 2030. This is very important. 3 companies are working towards this. One of them is called Yara International. And they're developing a green ammonia. Let me start that again. Yara International is developing a green ammonia bunkering facility. Yeah, that's right. I had to really think about that. I was like, bunkering? Isn't these barges? But no, Yara's developing a green ammonia bunkering facility in Norway to supply ships. It consists of a floating stationary barge. So the ammonia is, I think, made in there. Is that right?
They're made or stored, yeah.
Yeah, stored, made. I think it's a byproduct of the hydrogen they're using.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're leading this industry with ammonia. And their barge will hold 600 tons of clean ammonia, and then they'll ship this ammonia to other people to use.
Yeah, sort of an interesting fact about that company is it was started by an industrialist and a scientist. So they kind of have that business background as well as that science-based background. And they actually started the company making mineral nitrogen fertilizer. So different than what they're doing now, but the science must have taken them elsewhere. So I think having that science aspect and the business aspect is that strong business background. And then you can really market the product. Yeah. And when you have scientists working and heading up the company, it'll be constantly developing. I'm very excited to see what they do next.
Especially if that was, like we think, like just a mistake and then they rolled with it.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. The second one is, now I might mess this up here, but I'll try my best. The second one is Namibian. I tried. It's in Namibian.
Yeah, I think it was Namibia.
Namibia. Okay, that sounds better than the mumble jumble I just said there. That's ridiculous. This firm is Hyphen Hydrogen Energy, HHE. It's building a $10 billion green hydrogen plant. So a whole plant. When completed, the plant will produce 2 million tons of green ammonia each year.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. I think right now they're doing somewhere in the low threes or high threes, 300,000 tons. So that's pretty great. They plan to export all around the world too, not just some businesses like the first one, Yara International. This one will be literally around the world. And with the numbers they plan to produce, I don't see how that's not possible.
Yeah, and they're at like an advantageous location because Namibia is on the Atlantic Ocean in southern Africa. So that kind of gives them like direct access when they go to Asia up the other way or right across the Atlantic to the American market. So they're at sort of like a prime point for shipping where they could go either route and they're sort of central and then head up also to Europe. So that's a really great location when you're trying, when you're thinking about shipping to the various points of the world. That's a good spot to be.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how it's going to work in Canada when we open up more of that Northwest Passage. That is going to be exciting. I know there's been a lot of grumbles about who owns what there, but I think once that's all resolved, I think there's going to be a lot of shipping through there. As long as Amazon's still going, I think there's going to be no problem getting merchandise through there. There'll be lots of it.
Yeah, that'll be great for like China and Japan just to go straight to Canada and America on a very short trip versus how they do it now. I mean,
I'm not even sure how long it took before, now, but like
quite a bit longer.
When you look on the map, you can assume that it was, much longer. So the third one is Feeling Green Energy.
I love that. Yeah. I'm feeling it.
It's better than the alternative, which is felon. That's not a good name for any business.
No.
So they're building a green hydrogen plant as well, but in South Africa, which is great for that economy. It will use wind and solar to power the supply, which is 85,000 tons of green hydrogen. This is amazing. And they're going to produce that every year. So that's great. As well as 440,000 tons of green ammonia. That hot topic right there, right?
Yeah.
Ammonia. A new fuel.
Fuel of the future.
Yeah, and they'll export that around the world too. They won't be keeping up with hyphen hydrogen energy, but they will be supplying, the lower half. So that's amazing. And I think that's about it for that. Where do you see this heading at?
Well, I definitely think that we're trying to move away from traditional fuels and combustion engines. So if it's working great in cargo ships, I don't see why we can't use it in vehicles. I know that we have electric vehicles, but this might be another alternative fuel to that.
Yep.
I am not exactly sure the waste right now that electric vehicles produce versus what green ammonia would produce. So that'd be an interesting study to see.
Yeah.
I know that producing the batteries for electric vehicles can have quite the environmental impact. So maybe green ammonia is more advantageous.
Well, like I said, I believe it's a byproduct of the hydrogen, and hydrogen's just water. Right? Water, electricity, which it sounds like they're using green electricity to even, engage the hydrogen portion of that water. So this is exciting things, and I think we're going to see a lot by 2030, right? That beautiful number there.
That gold change.
Yeah. So Andrew's going to head up the next one, and that's how Beijing reduced air pollution.
So in 2013, they have since lowered their pollution by 64% and increased the number of good air days from just 13 days in 2013 to over 300 days in 2023. So that is a massive accomplishment. I'm sure that we all remember a decade ago, the smog in Beijing was garnishing like international attention. their air quality was super low. You would hardly
Everyone
see
was wearing a
anything in the
mask.
city. Yeah.
And that was before it
COVID.
was cool in COVID.
So, yeah, it obviously needed to change. So what they did first was they installed air quality monitoring system by putting 1,500 sensors throughout the city. Because before you can properly tackle a problem, you have to really identify the problem. So data collection is huge, so that you know the pain points, um, and these different sensors could probably pick up the different types of pollution, where that's coming from. I know they had mentioned a lot of it was from, they still used a lot of coal mining, a lot of fireworks, because it creates that smoke and things like that. And there was quite a long list of things that they had to cut back on. So then they introduced emission controls using the data that the sensors collected, and mostly on the coal powered plants, because I mean, we've seen the effects of that and it's extremely harmful. So they forced that to cut back. They also took all of the old vehicles off the road and replaced them with new ones that are lower emission vehicles, and that helped drastically. And I've never been to China, but I have seen videos and things like that where it's a lot more biking happens there than it does here. And I know
it's less congested.
Yeah. Right? And it definitely helps that they have better climate than here. I can't imagine biking to work at -40 through 2 feet of snow, but that's not something that they have to combat with. So it's a lot easier for them to do. It's a lot more economically friendly. The cost of a bike versus the cost of a car. You're not putting gas in it. You don't have to get a license. You don't have to pay for plates, things like that. So it definitely makes sense
Unless
that there's a push for that.
Bike has a motor, right?
Yeah. And the other thing they did was growing public transportation. So that's something that we're a little bit lacking on here, but I know that there are other cities in Canada that have like trains that go, faster buses. When we were in Italy, I can't remember the name of the train, but that thing was amazing. Cool. Yeah. You can go city to city and it's very fast. It was very nice. And I know,
and the views are spectacular.
Yeah. And then again, you're not driving. You're not, you can sit back, you can work on the train, you can just enjoy and relax on your way to work. So that's kind of nice.
Am I wrong? But I think some of them had, it wasn't just like seating, right? I think they had like a couple of cargos.
Like, I think so, yeah, like standing and things like
standing,
that.
Yeah. Doesn't really matter, but.
So the way they made this work is, for things like this to work, government and municipalities need to have a clear action plan with sustainable policies. You can't set these wild goals that are going to be impossible to meet. They need to be well thought out and achievable. And that's something that you can think of when you're making your own goals in your own life. Don't set these wildly outrageous goals like, I want to be a millionaire in the next 6 months and just hope that it happens. Like, if you want to be a millionaire, it's going to take time. You need to make clear steps of how you're going to get there. And so that's really what they employed.
I don't want to cut you off, but you can make that plan for 6 months as long as you break that plan up and retrace it and then figure out exactly how to reach each goal every week to make it there. You know what I mean?
And just make sure it's sustainable. I know that lots of people set goals for themselves that are very hard to keep up with and you burn out really quick. So that's what this was saying. Make sure you have that sustainable approach. And when you're making policies for government, a scientific approach helps. Like, have this data, analyze it carefully, make sure that you're reading the raw data and not just drawing inferences. Like, make sure that you actually have empirical evidence so that when you make these decisions, they're based on fact and not just hopes and dreams. You want something solid there. So start with discovery through data, come up with solutions, make sure they're sustainable, test them, and clearly it works because like they said, in that 10 years they had reduced pollution by 64%, which is massive. And that's not something you want to do with population, just pollution.
It is happening though. In a lot of places, population is lowering. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I had for that one.
Okay, well, why don't I take Japan then, and then And then we'll go back to transforming finance. Okay, awesome. Well, then you'll love this. Okay, you're gonna love this. Japan's plan for conveyor belt transportation, or transport, actually. I don't think it's gonna hold people yet, unless they're trying to cross borders. So this conveyor belt, it's going to run between Tokyo and Osaka. The conveyor belt would occupy the middle of the lane. Like, so there'll be cars on one side, cars on another side, typical to any highway, any road, really. Except in the middle, they're going to have this fast transit, similar to Saskatoon here. And I'll get into that later. But it's going to occupy the middle of the existing highway and transport closet-size containers by groups of 3. So, as you can imagine, that's going to be moving awfully fast all day. This is set to run 24 hours a day. It's automated. Forklifts, sorry, my mistake. Automated forklifts will load and unload the containers at each end. Truck drivers will then complete the last mile of the deliveries. So right now trucks are driving all over the place. They're trying to complete deliveries while being in traffic and sticking to a schedule. Almost impossible, right? So similar to most cities, how they have a bike lane, this would just be for transportation of goods. Strictly goods, that's it. So in Saskatoon here, we have a little problem here. I think maybe all of Canada does. Actually, I know they do. But Canada Post is a big issue right now. So my suggestion, and I'm just some guy with a bunch of businesses. What do I know, right? My suggestion is when we go ahead with this fast transit by 2026, we should be occupying a small portion just for mailboxes. And we already do this in most areas within the city, right? So if we just put every few blocks a few mailboxes that would supply mail to, that portion of the area, then people could just go to that mailbox, pick up their mail, and that would be it. This could eliminate, I know this sounds bad, it could eliminate a lot of jobs, but at the same time, it's going to create new job opportunities in different sectors, right? With an influx of people, there'll be an influx of jobs. So I think that's going to be something that's going to be a big necessity to do.
Yeah, and hopefully it cuts back on some of the losses from the government. Like Canada Post ran a deficit.
$6 billion deficit. And they're asking for a raise of 24 or 25% in 4 years, 3 years?
4 years.
4 years. Yeah, still is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that? Nobody gets that. 6% a year? Are you crazy? No. I think we should
especially not if you're losing money.
Yeah, if you're making money, okay, yeah, sure, let's reward everyone. But they're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
$6 billion up to date, okay? That is not a small amount. We need to eliminate and start fresh. Now, how do we do that? Well, if it takes them so long to drive everywhere, I think we should cut their drive down to like nothing. Get rid of the drive, put it on the bus rapid transit system in the middle of the lanes on the heavy streets, and set up the mailboxes right there. Done. So much easier. And not to mention, like, most of the mail that's even being shipped in the mail is government mail. We should be eliminating any paper use from the government. If you don't have an email by now, how are you watching TV? How are you on your phone? How are you doing anything in your life without an email? If you have an email, the government has computers, we should be sending all documents on the internet. Eliminate that part too. This is likely what they've been doing, and this is why Canada Post is hemorrhaging so much money, because they have all these people on staff that they don't even need.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of that. I'm a little heated about it. The three main benefits for the conveyor belt are the reduction of major highway congestion. And I've mentioned that. And I think just by understanding how the conveyor belt works, you can understand that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, cutting transportation emissions. This is huge. We've said the amount of CO2 emissions are astronomically high. And of course, they're going to be higher when everybody's not just driving on the streets, but they're also idling on the streets, not doing anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not doing anything because it's all congested. And why is it congested? Because of Canada Post. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. but that is a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one courier. How many couriers are out there? How many people driving? There's a lot of these jobs that require going to a home. I know all about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many hours I've spent on the roads. Too much. And we can reduce this a lot by eliminating the things that are unnecessary to even be on the roads. Number three, this would also aid in tackling. I was going to say tracking, but that is right up Japan's alley. This would also aid in tackling Japan's labor shortage.
Mm.
And like I said, with eliminating some jobs, yes, some of these truckers' jobs, not great, but it's going to take those people and be able to retrain them and put them in a different field.
Yeah, just with the baby boomers, it's a large population that's retiring and it sort of leaves a lot of open jobs. So reducing those jobs into different jobs is definitely going to be helpful going forward.
Yeah. As Japan's population grows, its working age population is shrinking. Okay. It's pretty obvious. And I think a lot of people, this has been a topic before, maybe not on this podcast, but elsewhere for sure, I know. It's shrinking from 87 million people in the last 30 years to less than 73 million people today. So what do you think is going to and what do you think is going to happen when these people, like I just said, they're reaching this old age, limit where they shouldn't be working anyways. They should be looked after. So who's going to with this trend going the way it is, this could pose a severe challenge for Japan's logistics industry and probably so many other industries too. Today, trucks carry around 90% of Japan's cargo, and the country's overall transport capacity is set to shrink by 34% by 2030. Japan's government hopes to start trials for the new conveyor belt by 2028. So 2 years after we figure out how to change, we in Saskatoon, Canada, 2 years after we figure out how to turn our center lane into a lane that's drivable, okay? In that amount of time, they're going to be adding a whole new bridge and figuring out automation with on that bridge. And we're still fumbling thumbs over how to figure out
public transport.
How to figure out a freaking center lane. My God.
We are light.
By the way, if you work at the city, I have so many ideas on how to even make that better than the plans you guys already have. It's unbelievable. I was getting heated there. Japan is not the first place to consider this approach. Saskatoon's bus rest. Oh yeah, I've already mentioned that. Is set for 2026. So there you have it. As well as Switzerland, though, their cargo SOS. I think it's SOS. Pardon my English there. SOS Terrain is planning to build a 500-kilometer freight link. This one's really cool because it will be self-driving pods, and this will be 80 meters below ground, which is very futuristic, very cool, and I like anything like that. And I'm sure you guys do too. This would be a lot similar to, I don't know if you've seen, here's the movie of the pod here. If you've seen iRobot, This would be similar to that, how they go down into these cargo lanes, I guess, underground, right? And they're just that's my way of saying fast. They're moving down there very fast.
Do you think Elon Musk will be down there to dig the pit?
I think there'll be similar builds like Elon Musk's boring company holes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what he would call them, but he's got a little system too, and I'm sure you guys have heard of that. If not, check that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
This will all be powered by renewable energy and emitting 80% less CO2 than road freight weighs today, which is incredible. This is all really kind of led, and there's a major coalition that the World Economic Forum is putting together, and it's leading the way right now. So thank you, World Economic Forum, for stepping up and getting everybody to work together. And that's what I was going to say about Elon Musk's boring company there. Like, it'll be something similar because I'm sure everybody is starting to share information, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in an information age, and sharing it is important for us to all work towards this net zero initiative. So
yeah,
that one is all done. That's Japan's plans for conveyor belt transport. Hope you enjoyed that one.
Our last topic of the evening is transforming finance for women in Tanzania. So in Tanzania, wealth has been traditionally...
Where is Tanzania?
In Africa.
In Africa.
Yeah. So wealth has traditionally passed through the male lines, and women don't actually have the ability to grow equity because they don't have any collateral to their own name.
And why is that?
Because it all passes through the male lines.
Yeah.
So it goes to the son or whatever. If there's no son, nieces, nephews, grandson, things like that.
And if not that, does it go to the government, the state, the country?
No, I don't think so. I think if you can't find a male heir, then it would be. But no, I don't think that would take it back. But so the girl that's driving this big initiative there is Victoria. I'm going to say this last name wrong. Kisimbi. She lost her husband, and she had 3 small children at home, and she had nothing to get a loan to keep them going. She had a job, but she needed something more to help feed the family and things like that. So she looked at what she had around her. She did own a cow, and she was using that to produce milk for her family, and started also producing and selling it for a little bit of extra income. And she was able to build up some extra income, and just had this idea, like, why can't women do things like this on their own? Why isn't there some support here to help them? So she started an initiative, and she now works with major banks to facilitate loans to women in Tanzania. And it's through what she calls the business is Selfina's Leases. And there was no laws protecting leased assets in Tanzania before. So here we have contracts. If you lease an asset, you enter into an agreement, you make the payments, and then at the end you either buy it out or you return it to who you've leased it from. But that agreement protects you throughout the use of the asset while you're making regular payments on it. So there was nothing like that there. And through her advocacy, she actually got the law changed. And so now when you are leasing something, there is an agreement and it is protected. And then that's something that you own. That's something that you can have collateral to. Because once you're done with these leases, she doesn't take the leased product back. It actually goes to the person that has been paying for it. So
that's how leases should work.
Yeah. So it's more like what we call financing here. We have 2 options here. Finance it or lease it. Lease it, you give it back. Finance it, you keep it, which is a little bit more expensive than leasing, but obviously a better outcome because you get to keep it at the end and you have that collateral.
That's a better outcome for everybody, the economy in that area.
Mm-hmm.
This woman is amazing. The things she's doing and stepping up when others should be.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Well, I just know, like, it's been such a fight for women to have equal rights through voting, which happened here a long time ago, but it's very different in other areas of the world, and it's disheartening because women are powerful and it's very impactful. And we can see that here. There's been so many great changes and it's different, but I think it's good different. So she had a quote that I'm going to paraphrase just a little bit to make it fit a little bit more for my life. But when you change the life of a woman, you change the life of an entire family. And while women weren't typically the heads of the family, that's been a male role recently, you can just tell that women are sort of heads of the household. A lot of the household chores have typically fallen to the woman. So if you can change her life, you can really change the life of the family because it impacts how the children view her, how she's raising them, and it's just an extra role model, which I think is very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an advocate for that. Watching you rise, Angie's a lawyer now. She's come from basically nothing and worked her way up for many, many years.
Took a long time.
And she's earned her place at the top, and it's great to watch her roll. I love a strong woman sitting next to me. There's no better secure feeling than knowing that if something ever happened to me, I know everything would be fine because my wife is very strong and she can handle everything.
And vice versa. Not that you're a woman, but my husband is very strong as well.
Yeah. But that just shows, like, you can grow twice as fast if both of you are big players, right? Mm-hmm. So I love that story. That was a good story, and her little quote there, amazing.
Yeah, I really felt that, and I'm happy that there's advocates like that out there that really bring this change in the world because it is important.
Yeah, woman power. You know.
I mean, if you think about it, if only 50% of the population is doing certain things, when we could have a lot larger of the population doing those same things, it just makes sense economically.
Yeah, I will say one thing though: not all men are bad and think that women shouldn't be doing things. Like, there's me, right? But I remember one time I was getting a haircut once, and this lady was like, I was asking, I was like, so do you own this place? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's really awesome. And then she like gave me a look like, oh, you don't think like women should do that? And I was like, whoa. Like, I was like, my wife is a very strong woman and she's like top of her industry. I said, I love a strong woman next to me. And then she like smiled because she knew that I was, sincere about that. But like right out of the gate, she assumed that I wasn't. And that's not cool, I mean, I understand why that is, but like, we're not all bad. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
we're not all bad.
I definitely think that perspective is changing. There's been a lot of gender rivalries, and it's fun because it's something that you can poke at, and it certainly brings a spectacle. But I do think that that's changing, and men and women are working more powerfully together, and
hand in hand. You could say.
I think we're finding that sweet spot where we can all get along and know our abilities and limits. And I honestly, I don't believe that both genders should do everything equally because there may be more genders. I'm just going to speak in terms of two. They can do things differently and they do think about things differently. So I don't think that they should be labeled as the same. Equal and the same are not equivalent to each other.
But if you want to do something, whichever gender you are, if you want to do something, you should have every right to go and do it.
Yeah, and bring your own perspective to it. That's what I was trying to get at.
Nice.
That each one has a different perspective based on just our entire history, and that's encoded in our DNA. And so we can really bring enhancements to each thing that are typically male roles, that are typically female roles. They don't have to be that typical. We can each contribute to them and change them and bring that different perspective.
I like that. Well, what time are we at here? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're good. That's usually the time we are. Okay, well, this has been the Global Falcons podcast. Before we go, again, I just want to say, hit that like button. Tell a friend. You never know who this is going to help. And share it. Yeah, that's what I mean by tell a friend. Share it, like it, subscribe, do all of these things. It really, really helps us, and we would really appreciate it.
And if you want to check out our personal social medias, I am Angela Hunter on all platforms.
And I'm Andrew LG Hunter on all platforms as well. And, I am happy to talk, as you can see.
Yeah.
Shoot me a message. If it's relevant and it's not like spam or hate mail, I'm definitely willing to talk and help you maybe figure out some things in your life that, I'm not what are those people? I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but I've seen a lot of things and, I've built up quite a few businesses. So I'm always willing to give information because I never had it when I was rising up.
Mhm.
And I know how difficult it can be. And just having a little bit of information to steer you in the right direction can make a world of a difference. So hit me up, Andrew LG Hunter, on all platforms. Awesome. This has been the Global Falcons Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And then we'll stop.